The Hughes & Kettner Black Spirit 200 is an interesting amp. 4 channels, fully programmable, built-in effects, small chassis, super light. It's an analog amp, but no tubes in it. And it now also comes in a combo and a floor amp version as well. In this video, I'll give you a deep dive into the features, the sounds, and at the end of the video, I'll give you my honest opinion about the amp as well. Let's get started. Well, hello there, Vlad here. Welcome to my studio. Today we're checking out the Hughes & Kettner Black Spirit 200 head. Before we go any further, there's 2 things I want to mention. First of all, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button, notification bell, all of those things, so you won't miss any future content. And the second thing I want to mention is that while Hughes & Kettner did send me this amp to use in my videos, it doesn't affect in any way what I say in these videos. And if I say there's something that I think should be improved about the product, that's just my personal opinion I've formed over the 20+ years I've been playing guitar. The Black Spirit 200 is a very compact, incredibly feature-packed amp with cool looks, blue lights, and it weighs only 3.6 kilos. I know Hughes & Kettner uses all these fancy terms, spirit tone generator and what else is there, bionic I think is one of the terms as well, but at heart it's an analog amp with this new type of circuit that they say makes it feel and play like a tube amp. And the company is very secretive about the whole thing. They don't want to reveal what the spirit tone generator is, which by the way you can see over here. Because I'm not Colin Scott, I cannot do like a really deep dive into the technology of the amp. What I'm going to do is to focus on how it sounds, how it feels to play, and what are my experiences using this thing. The amp is incredibly feature-packed, so I'm trying to make this simple to follow. There's 4 channels that you select using this thing. There's a boost that's assignable per preset or per channel. Then there's something called sagging control, and I absolutely have to read the technical definition of this of my script over here. Sagging is a drop in power supply voltage when spiking transient signals hit the output stage hard. In normal people terms, and that's how I understand all of this, is that it basically simulates the effect you have when you turn your tube amp master volume really loud, and that starts introducing different interaction between your guitar and the amp, and especially the power amp section. That's how I understand it. If you have a better explanation, let us know down below in the comments. Then there's resonance control, presence control. Then there's a global master volume, and the master volume works in a way that you balance the volume differences between the different channels using the volume control over here, and then you use the master volume to control the overall output of the amp, which is really convenient when jumping between the channels especially. Then there's a phone lines output, power button, store button, which you use to store presets on this amp. There's an effects loop switch, and you can assign effects loop on or off per preset and per channel. Then there's the effects access control, which opens up this second row of adjustments, 8 different cabinets, built-in reverb, delay level, delay feedback, delay time controls. There's 4 different modulation types. There's chorus, flanger, phaser, and tremolo, and then there's also a kind of intensity control for the modulation as well. On the back side, first of all, there's aux in, so you can, for example, play your backing tracks to the amp, effects loop, MIDI in, MIDI out / through. Then there's the DI out, and that's powered by Hughes & Kettner's own Redbox AE, which is the newest digital version of the cabinet simulation. Basically, you can go DI out into recording interface as we're doing here, or to the front of house. And you can also select between mic and line levels, and you can also turn this thing off if you want to and apply your own impulse responses in your DAW, for example, or using one of the IR pedals out there. Then there's the speaker out, works with all the caps between 8 and 16 ohms, and you can select between 200, 20 and 2 watts. And based on my personal experience playing with a band using a real cabinet, 200 watts is crazy loud. Then there's also this cool switch which allows you to find which kind of cabinets you're using. There's a switch for like a regular guitar cabinet, but then you can also go into a full range cabinet or like a monitor type of thing, flick a switch, and it changes the EQ curve that it's going to send to that cabinet. If that wasn't enough features for you, there's also a Bluetooth option which you engage by holding the boost button. We have the Bluetooth light blinking. So what you can do now is to play, for example, your backing tracks to the amp using your phone or whatever mobile device you have. Or if you own an iPad or an Android device, you can use one of those to control everything in the amp. Just download the Black Spirit 200 control app, or however it's called. Here's the real name of the amp. And that gives you full access to all of the features of the amp. We made it through the features. Let's talk about how to actually set up a sound in this amp. Let me drink this first. First of all, I'm playing my lovely Ibanez AZ2402, I think is the right code. And we go straight from the guitar into the amp, and I'm going from the line out of the amp into my recording interface. And I believe I should be on cab number 5. Here's a list of all of the cabinets, by the way. Hughes & Kettner is again a little bit vague of what they are, but yeah, that's how they name them in the manual. So the way you set up this amp, well, first of all, you choose the channel you want to go on. Let's see where we are right now. Not too far away from where I want to be, but, well, first of all, maybe a little bit of bass. Mid-wise, I'm good. I'm not a huge fan of the treble on these amps. It can be a bit harsh, but the way you kind of tackle that issue is to roll down the treble control. And then you can go to the presence control and dial back in the high end you want to have in your sound. Then you also can adjust, for example, the resonance control. Very boomy. Much tighter. For this kind of rock and roll sound, maybe somewhere in between. Stacking control all the way down. As you can hear, it also kind of thickens the sound, and feel-wise, it's kind of more loose, so to speak. So, for example, if you're dialing out a really tight metal rhythm sound, maybe turn down the sagging completely, and for more rock and roll stuff or like huge clean sound, turn it all the way up, or somewhere in between. Let's also take a look at the effects section of the sound. As you can hear, we already have some of the reverb going on. When we hit the effects access button, it starts blinking, and now we're on the kind of top row of these things. So let's adjust the reverb. Absolutely no reverb. All the reverb. Maybe somewhere over here. Kind of delay. We actually probably won't delay for this. Modulation. I think you get the idea how this works. Then once we're done, we don't actually have to do anything because we don't have a foot switch plugged in. All of this that we just did here gets saved to the Crunch channel. So when you're not pairing the amp with an external foot switch, pretty much everything that happens here gets saved to that channel that you're operating. So you kind of have 4 presets, if you will. Pairing the amp with Hughes & Kettner's own catchily named FSM 432 Mark III MIDI board or any other MIDI controller, you can save whatever presets you want with no channel restrictions, so to speak. You can, for example, have 4 different versions of just the clean channel if you want to. To demonstrate the differences between the 4 channels, I went through all of them and set them up in a way when I flick the switch. The only thing that changes is the channel. Everything the cabinet used, the presence, EQ controls, effects, everything should be as close as possible. So the only differences you're hearing are the actual channels themselves. And let's just check them out. Let's take a quick look at the effects, no reverb. All the reverb. Something like that. Let's back the reverb down, delay level. Let's go pretty high so you can hear it properly. Maybe even more like that. good sounding digital reverb. You can also control the level of the delay and the amount of feedback, so you can go crazy on it if you want to. And it degrades nicely. What you can also do is set the delay time here manually. Here it says that it's 1400 milliseconds at maximum. If you're using the Android or iPad app, you can actually set the exact tempo you want to have. Let's bring in a little bit of reverb and go to the modulation section. So let's put the intensity at half. Chorus. And as I turn the knob, you notice how the modulation depth, and depending on which effect we're on, the speed kind of picks up as well. Phaser, sorry, flanger. Here's the phaser. And last but not least, tremolo. To me, the effects are really good sounding basic effects that cover a lot of ground, and especially with the ability to program presets. You can basically gig with this amp in a lot of situations without need for any additional pedals. Last but not least, let's take a look at the cabinets as well. So in order to access them, click the effects access button. We'll start with all of the cabinets on a clean sound, and then we'll switch to something a bit more high gain to hear how they behave in different situations. As you can tell, there's a huge difference between the cabinets, and obviously you would EQ your amp differently depending on what cabinet you use. But just an example of how many different tonal options you have with just the built-in cabs. And you can, for example, set one cabinet for your clean channel and a completely different one for your drive channels as well. So that's really cool. As I mentioned earlier, the built-in cabinets are digital, which also means that we can safely compare them to something else, let's say a Tunots thing. So what I wanted to do is to pick my favorite cabinet out of all of the cabinets that come with this amp and compare it to my favorite digital cabinet of all time, which is the closed back 4x12 by Rev Amplification in the Tunots World Sound software, and just see if there's a significant difference or not. So what I'm going to do is to play a clip using everything built in the amp, the cab number 5, and then record a second clip where I disable the impulse response over there and try out the Tunots stuff. Let's go! Alright, there's a lot of that we just covered, and as you can tell, the amp is really feature packed. The amp sounds good, and as soon as you get used to the controls, it's actually fairly intuitive to use as well, so I like the design of how everything works. I think the amp sounds good with the built-in IRs, but I think it sounds even better when used with a real cabinet. I've played this amp with a band a few times now using the 1x12 over there in the corner, and in that situation I have been really happy with the way amp sounds, how it feels to play, and how it works with my pedals as well. Personally, I feel this amp has the dynamics and the touch sensitivity of a good low to mid-priced tube amp. So to answer your question, does it feel like a real amp to play? I'd say yes. Obviously, it's not a Rev Dynamis or a Tone King, Sky King or anything like that, but you wouldn't expect that with this price tag anyway. I'm actually excited about the future of analog amps because of this amp, because this one offers you the kind of real amp experience, but it's also super flexible with the channels, the IRs, everything. So to me, it sits somewhere between like a just super vintage tube amp and a great modeler. And personally, I feel Hughes & Kettner has found a really good medium between the two. I don't think the amp is flawless though, and you might guess where I'm going first, and it's the shiny knobs that are really difficult to read. And I don't know what's with the obsession of Hughes & Kettner of having these knobs that just don't have any kind of proper markers there. Here in the studio conditions with big lights over there, you might be able to see where the knobs are pointing at, but in most of the situations you don't. And I'm seriously considering getting like a white Sharpie and marking all the dots on the knobs so I could see where the knobs are pointing at any situation, every place, every lighting conditions. You get the idea. The Black Spirit 200 still has a bit of that Hughes & Kettner harsh top-end characteristic thing going on. Not as much as on the Grandmaster Lux 40, for example, or the Hughes & Kettner Triumph, but it's still there. But when you dial it back with the triple control and then bring it back with the presence control, you'll be more than fine with it. And like once I learned that trick, I've been really happy with the sounds I'm getting. The impulse responses in the amp sound good, but I feel I'm getting better results with an external IR. Just the quick test we did in this video already kind of showed me that maybe I want to put like a capstan pedal after this amp, just to go extra mile for achieving good sounds. But honestly, I would be more than happy to gig with the built-in IRs as well. Something that I think Hughes & Kettner might do, and I have no factual basis on this, I'm just guessing. They might give you an option to upload your own impulse responses into this thing at some point. I mean, all the cabinets in this one are digital, and you can connect to the amp via Bluetooth with an iPad, Android device, maybe a computer at some point as well. I think it would just make a lot of sense if you would offer that option at some point, but we'll see. Something that really annoys me, to be honest, is the fact that this thing doesn't ship with a gig bag. I mean, it's clearly meant as an awesome gigging solution, and the fact that you need to buy that separately kind of annoys me and almost makes me angry, to be honest. I really don't understand why the companies do that. It cannot be like a huge expense thing. Just add 10 euros to the price and that should probably cover it. And I don't think anyone will mind if they have to pay 10 euros extra and get a kickback than buying it separately for 30 or whatever euros it is right now. It's just, I don't know. I really don't understand why it has to be like that. Other companies do that as well. I know Orange is famous for not shipping any kind of foot switch with their amps as well, and it's a weird world. I don't understand why it is like that, but it annoys me a lot, to be honest. Having said all of that, I think it's a great amp, especially for the money. You get a lot of great sounds, great features, and I think it will appeal to a lot of people who don't want to go full modeling route, but also want the flexibility and the portability of that type of solution. And especially now with the combo and the floor amp version as well, there's plenty of options for you to choose from. And I think this thing will be a true problem solver for many, many guitar players. If you want to get your Hughes & Kettner Black Spirit 200, please follow the link below in the description. I'm going to link all the 3 versions of the amp in the description box. And if you want to support what I do, get yourself a Catpix Studios apparel stuff. There's hoodies, t-shirts, mugs, and you can also buy my jam tracks as well. Links to both of those in the description as well. Thanks for watching this video. I shall see you next time.